In this video, we are going to watch together, not one, not two, but 3 interviews with multimillionaires who started from zero and made their fortune in commodity and shipping through self-made. The interviews could be found on Noah's Kagan channel. Noah is actually one of the first to do these viral videos, knocking at the doors of random people and asking what they do for a living. And turns out a bunch of them became wealthy trading commodities. Coincidence? I don't think so. Without further ado, let's jump on the computer. And as always, I will try to add hopefully entertaining and insightful comments to the videos.
Ballpark how much you lose and ballpark how much you gain.
I lost something like $60 million in a matter of like 3 weeks, but I ended up probably making back like 180 million.
Recently, I met Rafa Martinez. He has made hundreds of millions of dollars trading natural commodities and is well on his way to become
Trading natural commodities. You can see that they don't know about commodities to call them natural.
becoming a billionaire. But life wasn't always this rosy. He immigrated from one of the most dangerous countries at the time, El Salvador, and his story was so profound that we decided to sit down with him and share his journey with you.
I remember as a kid when I lived in El Salvador, hearing the bombs, people running on the roof, and I was hiding underneath our beds. Sorry. I always start getting emotional about, some of this stuff.
Even though he and his family managed to escape to America, they still lived poorly.
When you got to America, were you living in like one bedroom? And then do you remember like how much they actually made a year?
I remember the apartment rent was like $450, 1.5 bedroom apartment. They will have been making minimum wage at the time, $6-7 an hour or whatever that, As a kid, didn't really appreciate what my parents in their early 20s were going through.
But since having established himself in the USA as a serial entrepreneur and trader,
Do you recommend energy trading as a way of getting rich?
It is a great way to generate wealth, but it's also a great way to be stressed out.
he nearly lost the majority of his wealth during COVID.
I lost something like $60 million. Yeah, in a matter of like 3 weeks. But I ended up probably making back like 180 million.
Let's find out how he managed to pull all of this off.
Can you share, in 30 seconds, can you share your business story?
Sure. I'm Rafael Martinez. I was born in El Salvador, been in the States, in Houston specifically for 26 years. I trade natural gas for a living. That's primarily what I do. And with that, I've been able to invest in new.
Yeah, so the guy is a natural gas trader, and natural gas has been extremely volatile lately. So I guess this is how he lost 60 and then made 180 million.
Numerous companies and do some startups of my own, all the way from fitness to racing to construction and tech. And so, yeah, I'm primarily in the more, I guess, in the investment field at this point. But I still trade natural gas, and I still have a big group and a book of business that I run.
How did you make your first million?
Trading natural gas. I went and worked for a firm that we did natural gas trading. We did logistics where we were buying and selling the actual molecule, serving end users, producers, and kind of connecting the dots in the physical grid, as well as trading the futures and the forward markets. And I started.
So basically what he's saying is that in his firm, he's trading the physical part, connecting end users, suppliers, and futures.
There as an intern, and at the age of 25, I guess I'd been there for 4.5 years. I became the head of the region of the book that I was working for, and from there, I just continued to dive into the market and had a good, I'd say, pulse on the market, and we were able to be pretty successful. So I think I made my first million when I was 29 as a trader, trading natural gas.
How much do top energy traders make?
Honestly, it just depends. I would say the average trader probably makes like $1 million a year. You have guys that.
Yeah, so this is true that energy traders, senior energy traders, should make like $1 million a year.
Guys and girls that make, I would say on the low end, if you're an energy trader, a gas trader, you probably have a salary on average of like $200,000 a year, and then you get bonus differently. Some companies do it as a pool based on how the company does. Other people do it as a percentage of book. I work as a percentage of book. So whatever you make, whatever you kill, you take home a percentage of net of costs and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I mean, you can make.
So what he's saying is that he's getting a percentage of the book. So that means that he's getting a percentage of the P&L, which is huge. Usually the smaller each commodity trading firm do that to attract the best trader, and the huge firm, they don't do it because their book are huge.
Make 200K plus, and you can make, there's people that have made $1 billion before working for themselves as a fund, whatever. But I would say on average, $1 million or $2 million is going to be sort of like what your average trader probably makes, a successful trader makes working for a firm.
You're the second person we've met on this channel who got wealthy from natural gas. What does that actually mean?
You can trade crude oil. You hear people that trade crude oil, that trade natural gas, and they largely are trading just a financial product where you're just directionally putting bets on that the price is going to go up or the price is going to go down. But behind that, there's the actual logistics that gets the crude converted into a gasoline that you pump in your car, that gets the crude into like the plastic that water bottle is made out of, right? Like that's made from crude more than likely, or it could potentially be a recycled product or something. But like all the plastics, all the latex, the tires, it's funny that you hear about like Tesla, for example, and wanting to be green. It's like, okay, well, where are you going to get the tires from? Because that's crude oil. So if you shut down crude operations, you don't have tires. So I don't know where your Tesla's going to go, but you need the tire on it, And so like there's all these obviously like these political things that happen with energy that that's interesting in its own. But as far as trading is concerned, we buy and sell the physical molecule from a production point and production hubs that we then find markets, people that consume it. So power plants burn natural gas to generate electricity. You have manufacturing that burns natural gas to run processes, to run, to boilers, to do processes, to boil water and stuff. You have obviously home heating. So most people, when they turn their heater on, is natural gas that's actually lighting up the furnace and things like that. So natural gas is a commodity energy product that's a byproduct of mostly crude production, but it does exist in its own. And it's a commodity that we use for energy. And so as a trader in the physical space, I am finding opportunities where I can buy gas, and we say, you buy low, sell high, where I can buy gas in a location and transport it to another location and collect a premium and cover my cost of doing so. So there's...
I think that what he's basically trying to get is geographical arbitrage. Buying in a region, for whatever reason, it's lower than reselling in another.
There's a big network across the U.S. of pipelines that no one knows exist until something blows up. Until someone drills into it and it blows up, no one knows that those pipelines exist. But there is a major network of thousands and thousands of miles of pipeline that is dug underneath the ground. That is how it gets to our houses. That is how it gets distributed and consumed. So those pipelines lease capacity for you to actually transport the molecule. So I can contract with the pipeline to have the right to move molecule through it for a period of time at a set cost. And so then I can put trading positions on that allow me to capture a spread, a location spread. And so, if you start capturing the spreads, if you're anticipating the market and you're saying this point's going to devalue over time, that point's going to appreciate over time, you can lock in a transportation rate and over time see that profit increase because the price differential gets bigger. So you can pay 25 cents to move something that eventually becomes $1 worth, and then you just buy here, sell here, and collect $1, pay the pipeline 25 cents. And so you can make a lot of money in the logistics of moving natural gas around the country.
Yes, but he's saying that they anticipate that there's going to be low demand in one point to another. So basically, they lock if I understand correctly, they basically lock the pipeline usage. They pay for that because they anticipate that it's going to be something is going to happen at those places. So anticipation means that they speculate.
As well as saying, I think the price is too low. I'm going to buy it, put it in the ground, store it, wait till it gets higher, and then sell it. And you can also have time spreads as well as locational spreads in the physical market. And then you can also trade financially, where you're just guessing directionally which way the price is going, just like a stock. And you can short it, you can buy puts, you can do all kinds of different products. So it's a pretty complex system. It's pretty regulated, but it's fairly efficient and transparent in a lot of ways. So there's a lot of people doing it. And if I make money, more than likely someone else lost money. That's the general, it's a zero-sum game, right? So generally, someone either lost opportunity to sell it for a higher price, or they sold it thinking it was going to go down and the price goes up, and now they have a true loss because it's always fluctuating.
All right, that was phenomenal. That was like the most like actual real no bullshit explanation. I feel like sometimes you guys are like, yeah, I do this thing. I'm like, okay, how do you do it? And that was awesome. That was a cool way. That was really interesting to learn. A few things on that I was curious about. What are some of the best and worst stories of some trades that you've done? Like, what are some of the biggest successes, or maybe worst
So I start with the worst story. I went to Spain to watch Real Madrid play Barcelona at the Bernabeu, and we get this news that COVID outbreaks happening. Like, it'd been sort of in the news, not really, but then the world's going to start shutting down, and I am in Spain, and I'm watching crude collapse. And it's collapsing by like $10, $20. And the natural gas that I'm short is going to appreciate because now there is no byproduct because production has stopped. And so we saw my book just lose millions of dollars overnight because people started panicking that the crude production that this gas is associated with was going to get shut in. And it in fact did get shut in to a large degree. So something that I thought was going to go to zero then went to like $4 when it was sitting at $2. And so I lost a ton of money. And, we had to make a decision, like, what do we do? Like, we need to get out of position. And so I would say one of the best stories is, as a trader, is that I saw that fact that if crude is actually shut in, there's no reason why gas needs to be still this cheap. So I then bought myself out of the position and doubled down the opposite way and went long the molecule, and then made all that money times like 5. So everything that I lost, I multiplied it by completely reversing my view, all in the matter of like a month. And so we ended up making a ton of money out of it because I completely reversed my view and that my position, and all happened very quickly.
Ballpark, how much you lose, and ballpark, how much you gain in that?
In that particular time period, I lost something like $60 million. Yeah, in a matter of like 3 weeks.
That's insane.
Yeah,
the volatility, the amount of,
This is
obviously the
insane.
volume that I was exposed to and things like that. And obviously then we reverted that and ended up, up on a year quite a bit. So
Up, you said like a few times that, so like
Yeah.
a few hundreds of millions.
I ended up probably making back like 180 million after being down a ton of money. Yeah. Just completely reverting the position and seeing like, if in fact production is not going to be there, then why is it still at this level? And you just have to trust your gut and your view and not be shy just because I'm losing money. That's the one thing that as a trader, I think people get
So the guy speaks about his gut. You've got to trust your gut.
shy and nervous about is, if you're losing, you lose confidence. And the one thing that I've always had is like, I'm a believer in my view and I understand markets are going to fluctuate. And so if I can withstand the fluctuations and still stick to my guns, then I can see positions play out while other people sometimes have to get out, whether it's a risk policy, a company policy, or their own personal tolerance that they can't withstand losing money. So they end up getting out too soon before they really see their trade play out. But you never see a chart of a stock go like this over a course of a year. Like there's ups and downs. And if you get nervous in some of those ups and downs, then you get out of your trade and then you just see it in, 3 months later and you're like, oh, if I held that, I would have made money. There's people like myself that can withstand the volatility and make money through the turbulence of markets.
What do you think you're doing something differently, right? Because if everyone who watches videos and becomes an energy trader, what's your mindset? What are you telling yourself?
As I'm trading, honestly, like people trade off of charts, they trade off of spreadsheets, they do all kinds of data analysis and studies and have all these analysts that give them all these like reports on what to do. I majorly trade on gut feeling, and I trust myself and I feel the pulse of the market. And if I think it's trending one direction, I go along with it. And when I start feeling that it's trending a different direction, I start reducing my risk and kind of even reversing. So
So listen to what the guy says. Though he's a billionaire, so from what I understood, the guy, or maybe not a billionaire, but he's multi-millionaire, and he says that he trades on his gut. So there's some, he laughed. Yeah, there's a bunch of guys that crush spreadsheets. But I trade on the gut. But what he's also saying is like the guy has been doing that. I think he started at 21 years old. So he's been in the market for 20 years. Now, I guess he's 40s-ish. So you need to factor that if you want to trade with your gut. You need to have experiences so then you can train your gut. Made me think about a kid that I met here in Malaysia. So the guy is not going to give information, but the guy is crushing. He's a master speculator. He's very, very good at speculating. He just got in one of the big commodity trading firm and he's crushing it from day one, man. So the whole firm was thinking about something one direction, and he, like a little new junior trader, thought about the other. That was, and he made it, and the guy made a lot of the money for the firm right from the first months he was in. So this is quite uncommon, but also this kid, his father, I think his father was also a speculator on commodities. So he trained him since he was 13 years old or something like this. So he also has 10 years of experience. So that means that, and if you want to use your gut or another method, you cannot be a wonder kid, It's need experience and time in the market to do what he does.
Trading, I am constantly trying to figure out which direction is the market going, and kind of thinking to myself, how confident am I in the position that I have? And so every single day that confidence calibrates, because the market changes and goes for you. And you're like, okay, it got to a point where I thought it could reach. Can it keep going? Or is this the point where I start reversing? And every day you have to recalibrate that, that viewpoint of what changed overnight, what changed today, what changed 5 minutes ago. The market is constantly moving based on information. And so you're constantly thinking to yourself, do you believe in the position today? Something happened over, I go to a lunch, I come back, the market's down, and I got to figure out why is the market so down? And then once I process the information, what potentially could have the market down, because you never really know for sure what's, there's some big information or big news that come out that, exactly where the market moved because the timing was perfect. That news is actually bullish or bearish, but you're constantly reviewing and saying, okay, no, the market's here now. Can it go farther down or will it bounce back?
Would you, if someone was young in their career, or even old in their career, and they're like, yo, I want to be a millionaire, would you recommend energy trading as a way of getting rich?
It's obviously a way, it pays really well. It's challenging, it's not for everyone. There's a lot of professions, say being a doctor, it's not for everyone. I couldn't imagine myself cutting someone open and doing anything. I'd freak out and leave the person there. So it's just not for everyone. It's very challenging, it's very competitive. So when you enter a trading company, for example, you don't start in trading generally. You start as an analyst in something, and you quickly realize that every person in that company wants to be a trader. And
yeah, so this is extremely true. So when I was my first job in commodity trading, I started as a summer internship, filing papers for operators at Total. What was the name again? Now the company is named Total Energy, but yeah. Now the company is named Total Energy, but it used to be Total Trading, which is still in Geneva. And I can tell you that there were maybe 40 operators. The 2/3 of them wanted to become traders, plus the people in the middle office and doing the hedging. So you had another 20, 30 people. So I guess in the whole company, 100 people wanted to become traders, and there is maybe one opening every 2 years or something like this. So I can tell you the level of competition. And Total Energy is it's a nice trading. It's not as cutthroat as Trafigura, Vitol, or the other pure independent trader.
So you may have a 100-person shop that has 5 traders, 8 traders, and every single person wants that job, and those traders aren't necessarily going anywhere. So it's
exactly.
It's something to aspire to, and it is a great way to generate wealth, but it's also a great way to be stressed out and lose your mind over just the stresses of the market. Some people freak out when they're up, and they freak out even more when they're down. And so it is a high stress, high paced environment. Expectations are high because if you work for a trading company, you're the one person that's making money for the company. Everybody else is there to support you. So it's like if you're the
Exactly.
I don't know, the Kevin Durant, like they expect you to drop 40 every night because the entire franchise is there to support you. Or as an F1 driver, talking about racing, when you're the F1 driver, they have 1,000 people who are doing their job every day to put you in that seat on Sunday, and it's your job to perform. So the amount of pressure that those drivers have is huge. And so that's the way trading is. It's, you're the only person for the company and the trading organization that can actually make money. And you're, 1%, 2% of probably the entire company. And so, some companies are more heavy trading and more true trading houses where maybe it's 10% of the people, 20% of the people. But generally you have a lot of support staff, legal staff, accounting, risk, mid-office, marketing, obviously, like administrative, to allow a handful of traders to actually try to make money. So it's a really high stress job. I fortunately don't stress about anything, and I'm like the coolest dude in the room. Doesn't matter if I'm way up or way down, like you couldn't tell the difference. But there's people that, that freak out at losing $10,000.
How do you do that?
Honestly, I don't know. That's the way I live life.
I need to,
Yeah.
I'm like, I lose $1. I'm like, oh, it's over. I'm on the street.
Exactly. And that's how some people are like that way. And like as smart as you may be, as much as you may know about trading, if you can't stand losing money or making money and you stress about both, like it's just not going to be something that you're going to be probably extremely successful at or happy doing. And so for me, fortunately, I just don't stress about anything. And I don't know if it's like the things that I've been through, if it's personality, if it's just outright confidence and knowing that I'm going to be right one way or another. But I just don't stress out over anything. Things happen, things break, people hit your car, you lose stuff, things break, you lose money, you lose valuables, people pass away. And I just don't stress about anything. I think that helps me a lot in my profession. That's why I've been so successful at it, is that I think I can withstand a much more higher tolerance of stress and risk than most people can. And so, someone can put the exact same trade as I did, but the volume that they did it for is a fraction of what I did, or they got out way sooner before they truly saw the trade play out. So something that they made 10,000 on, maybe I made $1 million on, and it was the exact same view, the exact same timing, and it's just a matter of like size and the position, and the fact that I was able to hold it for a few more days. Because once you made 10,000, you were happy, and you're like, I can't lose this 10,000, and you get out of the trade. Well, I'm like, I want to make $1 million, so I'm not going to get out at 10,000. I'm not going to get out at 100 because my view is that it's going to make $1 million. And so then, if I start losing some, I have to recalibrate. Is something changing in the market? But people do trade at different scales and different tolerances. And so for me, fortunately, I'm able to manage quite a bit of risk without any stress.
How much?
In his shop, they trade like pigs. They speculate like pigs. Oh my god, man. But I get the gas American market is so transparent, so aggressive that you need to speculate if you want to make money. There are some markets like this where the margin are negative, so you need to speculate to make money. And I guess the gas pipeline American system is like extremely competitive.
You can't teach that,
I was hoping you could.
It's like, I can teach strategy, but I can't teach, like how to be relaxed in a high. Like you can tell people like breathe, do this, do that, but like until you're put in a position where where you have to make a decision and you're losing money, I can't teach you how to feel when you're losing money. I can't teach you how to feel when you're making money. You have to be in that situation. And all you can teach people is like how to manage stress. You can't teach them like not to feel stress. And I literally feel no stress.
In our last video, I set out on a mission to hitchhike on a private jet. After getting rejected a bunch of times, I pushed through and met some incredible entrepreneurs. However, I couldn't convince anyone to take me on a flight with them until this happened.
We're YouTubers. Our dream is to get a tour of a private jet.
He was apprehensive at first as he was running late for his flight.
All right.
But our persistence paid off.
Oh, is there any way? Is there like, are you sure? That guy said yes.
The YouTubers, and they wanted to get a tour there.
This story is insane. Can you imagine just with a little camera, a little phone, being outside a private airport? And just by asking, you can get to inside one of those private planes. I mean, you get to props to know how to do that. I mean, come on, that's really cool.
Dude, this is sick. Do you know why why did you buy a jet?
He made a ton of money last year and decided he needed a big airplane.
Do you know what kind of work he was in, or what kind of stuff he did to make all the money?
He was trading.
How much does a jet like this cost?
34 million.
As we were getting off the plane, exchanging details, to our complete surprise, James said yes for us to fly with him to Boston on his $34 million private jet.
Greatest Friday ever. We're going to Boston.
Can you imagine that? Again, just being next to a plane, and now he's flying with this billionaire dude. And I mean, I like those type of stories.
So this is the full interview I recorded with this self-made millionaire who was a former nuclear engineer in the Navy and made his fortune trading energy commodities.
Like, how has having this like changed your lifestyle?
It's a time machine. And time is energy, and so it's a great multiplier.
Were you always doing trading like all along, or was it something you got into more recently?
No, I was in the Navy as a nuclear engineer, and I got out and got into finance, and then I wanted to learn about money, and I got my MBA, and so I learned engineering side of things and the finance side of things.
Yeah.
And so got into power marketing. I trade the most volatile markets in the world. They're more volatile than crypto. They're more volatile than any commodity out there. Electricity is the #1 most volatile market in the world. And they're the most reliably predictable because they follow the laws of physics, which is a conundrum, right? The most predictable and the most volatile.
For someone young that aspires to have a jet like this, like what would you recommend for them?
Find a niche and crush it. Deliver more value than anybody else.
And how did you find yours?
Just by trying to solve a problem and help.
Do you recall when you felt like you made it financially, that you felt more comfortable? Or like, yeah.
I've always felt comfortable. I was making good money in the Navy, making $40,000 a year, but I was going to sea half the time, so I couldn't really spend any money, so I'd actually put most of it in the stock market, which was doubling and tripling at the time. So I did really well there and gave myself the opportunity to get out of the Navy without having to depend on, re-enlisting and taking all the extra money they throw at you to stay in. So I realized very quickly that was the value of my happiness. They would have offered me a $100,000 re-enlistment bonus to stay in. It wasn't worth my happiness. When I realized that I put a value on my happiness and it had a dollar number, I was like, okay, that's the number. A few years later, it might have been a bigger number. I'd be like, no way. You have to pay me $1 million to do that again. Now it would be like, how much would you have to pay me to do that again? You have to pay me $1 billion to do that again. You want to take 6 years of my time? It's worth more than $1 billion. Easily.
How much does it cost to run the plane for a year, you were saying?
About $1 million. Break-even cost, that doesn't include usage, really.
That doesn't include using it?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, I guess $1 million does kind of get you. Yeah, I guess normal usage would be about $1 million a year, or light usage.
And that's not even flying a lot?
Not even flying a lot. I would say that. Yeah.
So basically, the plane costs 34 million, and then you need to pay like at least 1 million to use it a little bit. So, the costs are insane.
A fair amount would be a little bit more than that.
So like this flight to Boston, like what does that cost?
The guy doesn't even know it. Yes.
It's probably going to be about direct operating costs are going to be, to me, would be about $17,000.
Do you want me to Venmo you like $100? Like I Venmo you like 20, Cash App,
That's
like 20.
cool, man. Yeah. Send me some Dogecoin.
Yeah. I think when people think of someone owning a jet, like I think if I saw you at like the store, I'd be like, I don't know, who's this guy? You're not like Louis Vuitton and you have like some fancy bag. You're just dressed like a normal person. Which I think we all judge way too much. I know I do. So I like reminding myself and the audience of that. Just like trying to be a little like less judgmental about who we see and what we think they are.
Yeah, I like to surprise people. I can do it either way. You're trying to retain who you are. You don't need to impress anybody. Who's a fuck?
Like, how do you think about your finances? You said like you like some of the stuff like crypto hasn't done well. Like how have you thought about your money and spending it, or like doing this kind of trip?
I think of the economy in phases and what cycle I think they're in. I think we're entering, or have been, or entering into a winter. And I think winter time is when the strongest come out and survive. The wolves, the bears, whatever. Not the bears. I guess the bears are sleeping, but you know, I feel like wintertime is when there's a lot of rebirth, there's a lot of death. But every time there's death, there's rebirth. You can't have one without the other. So you look at the Depression in the 1930s, or any of the worst economic recessions we've ever had, that's typically been when we've had the most innovation coming out of that. So it usually is happening as we were going into winter. We were going into winter because it seemed to be probably that the old ideas weren't working too good anymore.
Yeah.
It kind of burned out.
This is funny how he says it, like the old ideas are not working anymore. And there is like, I don't remember the name, but there is like one scientist that explained that breakthrough arrives like any 20 years or all the 20, 25 years in the scientific world, because this is a time for the old scientists to retire, so then new idea can come up, because the old scientists, you know, they see the world in a way and they cannot imagine that it works in another way. So you need to put those guys out to find new guys that come up with new solutions. So it's a bit the same here, like the old ideas are not working anymore. So I guess now we are still living the echo of the Second World War, when the US like structured the world order, and this is a debt-based world order, and now we are, I guess, arriving at the end. So it's going to be a lot of turbulences, but also a lot of opportunities.
Whatever energy that had, and we were going to be shifting into something new. You know, these different phases that people are trying to figure out. You know, in our macroeconomic trends, right? But I think that the people who do the best homework and are the most patient and are the most prepared, meaning they have cash on hand, ready to sweep in, get some good deals, are the ones that always succeed the most, because they know that when we're going through attractions, there's always going to be fear, and fear always causes fearful thinking, which causes us to think in a scarce mindset instead of abundantly. So suddenly everything's worth a lot less than you thought of before.
But like, you were mentioning that like you had a crypto thing that went down. Like, how do you not panic? How do you still say, okay, I'm going to make this decision to take the jet out, or instead of like Southwest, want to get away fare?
I don't get attached to any one thing too much. I could sell this thing tomorrow and fly commercial and be fine. I'm more about where I'm going and what I'm doing. My experience is not. You could take this away. It doesn't change my life at all.
What are you cheap on?
Man, there's sometimes I buy something and they charge you a price that's so extreme and outrageous. You're like, it's insulting. It's like somebody slapped you across the face.
What's the story of that?
I don't know. I used to work at Subway when I was 19 years old. I made $5.75 an hour, and if that $5.75 an hour could buy me a certain amount, maybe a meal. I could take a girl out on a date. How many hours I have to work to buy a chick a $100 meal? $100 meal is a big meal. I go to a restaurant now, I get a steak. Every single steak is now $60 now.
Yeah.
It better be a damn good steak for $60. Because in my opinion, people don't make steaks very good anymore.
Agreed.
It's like I'm getting a half-ass steak out in town for an insane price. Yeah, things. That's when I start getting cheap. Like I'll cook it at home.
So it's funny because these answers are always a little bit off. He's a bit in his world.
Because again, food's one of our most important things, right?
Agreed.
I think the cool thing is no matter how rich you are, we're all eating the same kinds of things, hopefully, if you get rich, I think it's imperative that you eat nothing but the best food. And it's unbelievable. And in fact, it's indicative of our moral decline that the richest people who you could presume, or some could presume, are the best thinkers, are the least healthy people. They're the most stressed out. They eat the worst fucking food. They hang around with people that are questionable. You know, with money comes great responsibility, or you could just do whatever the hell you want. Which way do you want to go? I'm trying to lead it by example, but showing that I still want to eat the best foods. I still want to be healthy. I still want to hang around healthy people, young, healthy, vibrant minds that know how to solve real problems, that can contribute, people that are helpful. You know.
Can you pinpoint key inflection moments or key decisions that changed the trajectory of your life? Like one I would say is going to the Navy for you. I guess I'm curious, other moments in your life that you felt like you were lucky, or you met someone, maybe it's Bob Cooley, it sounds like another one. What other moments in your life come to you that like really changed trajectories?
Doing a U-turn and after working the night shift, loading trucks at UPS for the holidays, literally, I was like not happy with life. I was like 21 years old, college dropout, and I was going nowhere quick. But I knew I was very smart, I knew I was very driven, and I knew I could do anything I wanted to do. I don't know how I knew that, but when I joined the Navy, it was a leap of faith.
So it's funny because he's saying that when he was 21, he knew he was like extremely bright and that he could do whatever he wants, but he was a UPS driver, you know. So that means that he was in a college dropout, UPS driver, and this is something that you see with the best trader, but I think the best entrepreneur, the people that are the best at anything, they have an inflated sense of self. So that means that they see themselves bigger as they are. And it's important to do that just to stay sane when you fight the market every day. So, yeah.
I literally did a U-turn, went and talked to a recruiter, and 7 days later I was in boot camp. That was a leap of faith. If it's not a
Dude,
fuck yes.
It was a hell yeah.
I don't do like okay kind of things, you know?
Yeah. What are some of the other fuck yeahs or spontaneous like big things? Like, so it sounds like quitting UPS to go join the Navy was a massive leap of faith, U-turn.
Yeah, that really, you know, doing something extremely difficult really gave me the confidence that, oh wow, I could be like considered the best of the best, you know. Like, this is a very tough school I went through. It was very difficult. So then another thing was getting a good job out of college. Just, I don't know, just a series of things. If you just look for gifts, they're there, you know.
Yeah, I'm curious yours because it's definitely, I think you have some magic ones in there.
Getting fired from Excel Energy.
He says Excel Energy. I think Excel Energy is a power company, electricity company in the US. So it would make sense because now he run a power trading firm or something like this.
Because I demanded that I be paid what I was worth. I demanded I actually get paid for doing somebody else's job, which I was doing. I was doing the job of 3 people, and I wanted to get paid maybe 5% more, so I was fired for that. And that gave me the initiative and the drive to be like, I'm going to show these people how this is done, you know. Because I ended up competing against Excel Energy, and I believe I did things better than they did, even though they're a huge Fortune 100 company, you know.
So this is very, very funny because when an employee is asking, oh, I want a raise because I'm doing the job of this guy, most of the time, you know, they do not worth what they think. But in the case of that guy, he went out, set up another firm and competed with his old employer.
I think when you analyze a lot of the big companies or people that have money or whatever, you pierce the veil of invincibility. Like they're just normal people. doing normal fucking things. They have the same problems that we got. Like, you realize, why not me? Like, I'm pretty sure I could do exactly what you're doing 10 times better. You know what I'm saying? Yes. How about I just buy your business and, that's what you should be doing.
How much do you think someone needs?
We know that success in any endeavor comes down to your ability to build relationships.
It's a billionaire sitting in his jet that said this. Success is your ability to build relationship.
You think so? Because I feel like you seem also you've done a lot of it yourself. Like you were able to figure out this trading thing. I guess in my impression.
Yeah, I was very much a go-getter and a kind of an introvert, and I would be the one that would just do it myself because I wouldn't trust that somebody else would do it the way it needed to be done.
Yeah.
I have a very sharp mind for perfecting things and making sure things are right because of my training and some other things too. But I'm not sure what the question was.
No, it's just more of perks of being wealthy. I mean, having I guess one. How much
he
does someone
drunk?
need to own a jet? You think?
I don't think it was worse, honestly. I mean, if I sat down and looked at it, yeah. I mean, that's cool you're asking these questions. It's good.
What's that?
Cool you're asking these questions. I don't really think about that much, but I mean, you just any amount of money you have, you just kind of adapt to it, right? If you ever had a job where if you ever had a situation in your life where you had to take a cut in pay, you know, and you don't know how you don't know how you're going to do it. A lot of people have.
Yeah.
You don't know how you're going to do it, but a year later or whatever, you realize, well, I did it. How did I do it? Well, there's these things I had. I didn't think I was going to be able to. Well, you just did it. It just happened, right? And it doesn't matter if you start off making $40,000 a year or $100,000 a year or $200,000, whatever it is. You kind of just get accustomed to that, standard of living. You can be happy at any one of those stages, perfectly happy, as long as you're making progress on a daily basis. That's what happiness is.
Yeah, so this is so true what he's saying. Like, I mean, you can be happy at any stages as long as you progress. This guy.
Being in a relationship with someone, I think that you're building something meaningful and you have a goal in mind and you're making progress every single day. That's what I've been trying to get to for a very long time, and I wasn't good at being balanced enough to get my life in a place where I could let it all come to me. I was probably chasing too much. But that's all fixed. That's all getting fixed.
Are you working as much these days? Or are you taking more time for yourself?
I'm starting to work again here now, looking at some business deals with a fresh eye and a lot of energy, but also very careful about budgeting my time. I think if you think of your time in business defensively, it's really good for you because treat everything as a different entity. This business is trying to invade on my relationship. That's the way your wife thinks about it, or your girlfriend, I guarantee you.
Yeah.
So everything's got his own energy, so you got to balance things, right? It's just constant balancing that. And it's hard sometimes, man. You're trying to. But the other thing is you can't please everybody. You got to please yourself first. If you're not happy, nobody's gonna be happy. So number one, take care of yourself, help yourself. Don't fall into a codependent rut where you're helping other people. Really, you need to be helping yourself. Every day I'm trading, my net worth is completely at risk. I can lose everything. I'm completely bankrupt if I do the wrong things. So a lot of stress there.
Yeah, I feel you.
So he says that every day's training, his net worth is completely at risk. And this is kind of true, There's always one mistake that your risk management system couldn't foresee. Like someone typed the wrong number or something explodes or I don't know. There's always a risk that you get bankrupt. Always. That's true. Even with the best risk management system in place. That's for sure.
But it's the same kind of cutting edge thrill you get flying a jet. We're 20-something thousand feet above the ground. We want to make sure things are working right?
Yeah.
Same thing if you're flying your own business. The more you have to lose, the more attention you're going to pay.
make sure things don't go awry. You know? And that's why I think the bigger the risk you take, the more you get rewarded. That's how it works.
Yeah. More risk, more reward. This is how it works in trading, for sure.
You can't do it safely. You got to punch through your comfort zones. So a lot of people are very comfortable below their glass ceilings, and that's fine. But we're starting to realize that our glass ceilings are in different areas of our lives, not just money, not just jobs or career, but now we're starting to realize that those glass ceilings we've had our entire lives on our health, the well-being of our relationships with our friends and our family. I think we're starting to look more on the bigger holistic picture after the last few years.
How do you deal with when you said you could lose it all in like a trade or two, or one trade?
Well, theoretically, if you submitted the wrong information, made a decimal point error or a couple decimal points, that can cause a bankruptcy. Yeah, just like any bank or just like any utility or anybody has at risk at play.
How do you deal with that pressure, or how do you work on your mindset for that stuff? Because
I simulate scenarios, the worst case scenarios.
So this is funny. This is exactly what the other guy, Rafa, says, that he always thinks first at the worst case scenario, and then, it's okay. Worst case scenario, I get fired, I lose that. I'm still okay. And he says exactly the same. I simulate, I think about the worst case scenario. And actually, I do the same, actually. Now that I'm telling this out loud, I do the same. When it's a fan, like really, really bad. I think, okay, worst case scenario, what is happening? Oh, okay. Again, completely in debt, minus, I don't know, $500,000 in debt. Okay. So what do you do then if you do that? Okay, I will do this, Yeah, it sucks, but I'll be fine. So I'll do the same. That's funny.
Yeah, always thinking about what could mess up. That's what causes the stress. It's the constant scanning here. What did I not check? Where are my blind spots? Who did I not talk to? What questions did I not ask? What assumptions brought me here? I just read all the stuff all the greats put out. Tony Robbins, Ray Dalio.
So I just read all the stuff that all the greats put out. Tony Robbins, Ray Dalio. So Tony Robbins, a lot of you guys, I think this guy is a complete joke, but this guy is chilling his jet and he says that he reads Tony Robbins. So maybe I also need to start reading Tony Robbins for sure.
A lot of good people I've learned from. Keith Cunningham out of Austin.
I love Keith Cunningham.
Have you met him?
No, one of our guys went to his workshop.
You should go to his 4-day MBA.
It's good. His books are I love his books.
It's better than my real MBA. I would rather do 4 days with Keith than 18 months at a business school. Hands down. Hands down.
This is a testament.
You'll learn more in 4 days with Keith Cunningham than any MBA course in the world, Harvard included. 100%.
In a previous video, we hit the streets of New York to find out what people do for a living and how they afford to live there. And we came across this man who used to be in the ship-owning business. We turned this moment into a short social media clip and it got 18 million views.
What kind of stuff do you guys do in New York? What was your career?
Ship owning.
What? Really?
Yes.
You own ships?
Yes.
What kind of ships?
Mostly tankers.
Seriously?
Yeah. Refined petroleum product ships.
And you bought and sold tankers?
Yes.
So we found this guy, flew to Rhode Island, and we're sitting down today with Micheal Hudner to hear his full story.
How much have you done in ship real estate?
It must have been well over $1 billion. I mean, there's a lot of money.
I'm trying to understand the transition from going in a desk job into the distressed ship business.
I had a passion. Most people don't, actually. They have a lust, but they don't have a dream.
Despite being able to live out his dream life, not everything went as planned.
Do you have any regrets?
Let me talk about the loss of my son quickly. He became schizophrenic when he was 19. He died in a car accident. He was a really brilliant kid. I wouldn't expect my son to have respected me if I folded up on him You don't get over losing a child, but you learn to live with it.
A lot of our content is making money. This is what.
Of course, it hits you in the face. I mean, if it doesn't, you're up.
We also take a deep dive into Michael's views on money culture.
You mentioned the money culture is getting out of hand, and it's not something we should teach children.
Our world now, you can be famous and considered a celebrity just for having money. The money culture is running wild, and nobody puts any brakes on it.
Let's find out how Michael went from a desk job to owning over 140 ships, and how he overcame the challenges and adversities he had to face on his journey.
This is one of the craziest interviews we've ever done. So we did this video walking around New York, that people that were well dressed, that looked, I dare say, wealthy. So we walked around New York, looked at people that were wealthy, and asked them, what do they do for a living? How's New York? And advice for people like you and me. And we chatted with you, and you said you owned oil tankers, which we never met anyone like that. And then you also talked about the money culture. And that clip, as of today, and it's probably higher by the time this video comes out, is at 17 million views.
Woo!
We tracked you down, flew to Rhode Island, and now we're here to learn more about the oil tanker business, your story, and all your adventures.
You asked me what I did, and I said I basically own ships. And that was something I got into with a Norwegian partner in 1978. And we spent a couple of years, I spent several years. I was in the real estate finance business on Wall Street, going to law school at night. And I had two passions. One was the marine environment, and I grew up around here, Narragansett Bay. We had a small boat when I was a kid, 16.5-foot sailboat. As a kid, I always wondered what it was like to go over the horizon. Not like Columbus, flat Earth, I didn't mean that, just like, what's it like? It just grabbed me. And then I got enamored of financial structures as I got older for complicated reasons, but they appealed to me mentally, intellectually. We pioneered a number of financial vehicles for international shipping in the New York capital markets, things that hadn't been done before. And they were built on my experience in the real estate finance business for 6 years, plus the benefit of the legal training I got, although I never practiced, and I had no intention to practice. But we basically took real estate finance concepts and applied them to ships, and I made it a point to track the capital markets for property, for real estate. And I felt like if I could get enough time with somebody who was an investor in real estate, I could get him into a ship, which was sort of floating real estate, very simply put.
And then how much have you done in ship real estate or ship finance?
Okay, so the dollar value of the 140 plus ships, I never added it all up, but it must have been well over $1 billion. I mean, it was a lot of money.
Of ships that you've bought and sold?
Yeah. The biggest deal we did was buying the Canadian Pacific Fleet. That was 19 ships in one go, one contract.
You started your career out in real estate.
Yeah.
Like, how did you get into that, and then what kind of real estate?
We were a Wall Street shop. We're the first dedicated real estate finance shop on Wall Street. Eastdil Realty was a product. It was a subsidiary of Eastman Dillon and Union Securities. And then, as employees, we got to own some of the stock. Our clients were real estate developers, big companies, a lot of Texans. I mean, Trammell Crow was a big client, and Lincoln Property. I wanted to get into the real estate business, but from a financial point of view. This is because of somebody I met, the father of a girl I knew who had done this for himself, and he left the corporate world because he'd figured out how to buy a distressed piece of real estate with somebody else, and they were off and running. And he left the corporate world, which is an important thing to be able to do, to get away from W-2 income. I mean, if you've got people who are trying to figure out how to do this, you got to keep your expenses down. It helps if you have an understanding wife. If you don't have an understanding wife, it's probably better not to have a wife.
But that's like getting out of W-2 income. I think that's a really important point.
Yeah.
Yes, W-2 income, if I'm not mistaken, in the US, this is when you've got a salary. I mean, there's a form, and this is a W-2 forms that you need to file. So I don't know who said that, but someone said that salary is the most addictive drug of all. And this is true. It took me years to get off the salary and to be able to make money myself. So yeah, definitely.
What does that mean to you?
Freedom. You're working for yourself. So now you're an artist in a studio. What do you want to create? That's how I sort of felt. But I had to do something because I had to eat. And I was, in fact, married at the time that I did it. And my wife was very understanding that I had an entrepreneurial drive. I didn't think of it as being an entrepreneur. I just thought of it as wanting to lead my own life. But in today's world, that leads to entrepreneurship.
Yeah. I'm trying to understand the transition, from going in a desk job, a very standard New York finance desk job, into the distressed ship business. Because I think a lot of people have dreams. They say, I have a job in accounting.
Well, if they have that dream, they're all set. They just have to follow it.
Yeah.
Most people don't, actually. They have a lust, but they don't have a dream.
Oh, this is
or
good.
An envy.
They have a lot. They have an envy. People want. They have a dream. This is a good thing. Yeah, most people. I mean, I can see it in the shipping, the commodity academy. A lot of people hit me up and say, "Oh, I want to this and that." But man, 6 months, a year, 3 years down the line, they haven't moved. So they have these dreams. They have an envy, but yeah, they don't have what it takes.
I had a passion. I mean, I loved the marine environment, the marine world. I wasn't into it as an environmentalist exactly, but I loved being on boats, loved the ocean. I had a fascination for what it might be like to go over the horizon, I told you. And then I got enamored of financial structures, which was just something innate in me. I wasn't a mathematician, that's for damn sure. But I just, the logic of it and the way it worked was appealing to me. And then I saw the possible synthesis of those things. Nobody was doing it. That's attractive. And I felt like whatever I do with my life, I wanted to make a difference that I was there. So that kind of works against being a cog in a wheel. Or whatever you call it, like a tooth in a cog. I mean, that didn't work for me. As I got to know myself better, as part.
Yeah, so this is something that if you've seen the video on the Shipping Commodity Academy website, I mean, everyone is a cog in someone else's machine. And if you want to build your own machine, to put everyone, other people in your machine, to be cogs in your machine, it requires a lot of effort. It's very, very difficult, but it's possible.
Of the maturation process in your 20s, I realized I'm not really cut out to work for somebody. It's not because I want to tell everybody else what to do. I don't have any interest in that, actually. But I don't want to be told what to do. And then you have to accept the consequences of that. I mean, if you want to... And my father's father had a saying, apparently, because I never knew him. He died before I was born. Born in 1862. He said, the people who say they never had a chance never took a chance.
One thing I've got to highlight is that whether you're buying housing or cars or real estate or businesses, you don't even have to have the money yourself. You can do what you do, which is fundraise.
I had no money. I still had some college loans. The world has a lot of capital looking for a home.
So again, so this guy, he had no money, but he started to buy a distress shipping vessel or distress vessel. Use other people's money, OPM. And if you say, but in my country it's difficult, blah, 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 then you're just a victim.
And there's a natural, potentially stressful relationship between operating partners and financial partners. The financial partners need operating people. I mean, if you were a guy downtown in New York doing financial deals, you can't go buy a ship. You can write the check and then you'll go broke. You won't know what the hell to do, and believe me, there's no good book to read about this because you're operating in a fundamentally hostile environment. I mean, it's salt water and all the vagaries of the weather, which can be boiling hot or Arctic cold, and you're running steel and machinery. I mean, good luck. So you can't do it as a novice. Somebody's got to know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah, so this is so true. And I mean, this is also true for the commodity trading business. So people, when they are like amateur and they are getting handed, like, they get smacked in the face one time, 2 times, 3 times, and then they go back home with no money. So I've seen so many of them, amateurs, and they say, "Oh no, Damien, I don't need your course. I'll learn on the way." Of course, you learn on the way. But the guy lost like 100K. My course is 2K. So anyway,
on the operating side, so this is we need each other, but then I'd like to own ships and keep operating them, and the financial people want to get out. So that's an inherent tension in any industry, financial people, operating people. But they're looking for you. I mean, they need us. I mean, I didn't know that when I was a kid. I thought, well, you get the money, well, but people have money and they don't get paid to sit on it. They get paid to invest it. So that's available for everybody who knows what they're doing. And I'm grateful to have been born in this country where these opportunities are found more readily than any place else.
For a lot of our audience.
Yeah, so I fast forward a bunch for this interview. He speaks about the loss of his son, of his wife, how he overcame that. Man, this is the second time that I watched this part and I cried again. So it's not really relevant for commodity trading and shipping. So I would really encourage you to watch the full interview. I will put all the links below this video.
That wants to make money, they dream of making $1 million. What advice do you have for someone who's a young person that would like to make $1 million or more money?
Try things and see what gives you pleasure in doing it, and then consider following that, ramping up your involvement and ramping up your productivity in that area, because I think that's a great start. I mean, would you go out with a woman that you weren't attracted to? What's the point? There are things that we're attracted to. You just have to let yourself find out. And getting to know can be as important as getting to yes. So you save yourself a lot of trouble. You say, well, I'm not going to be a lawyer. Well, okay. I'm not going to be a doctor. Okay. I think I'll be a photographer. Wow. Did you see that sunset yesterday? Or whatever it is, I mean, that's why your stomach tells you things that your brain won't let through. If you have a passion for something, it is a form of compensation. I mean, to some extent, you gotta have cheeseburger money, but it is its own reward, and it gets you through the hard times when you're just working because you're making money at it. I couldn't stand the merit badge approach. I'm doing this because I want a merit badge, so I can then do that and get another merit badge, which a lot of people, I'm sure you've seen this. A lot of people, maybe not the guys you're talking to, they've all broken out, but most of the world seems to be on that path. They're looking for approval, which makes you a conformist.
This is very true what he said. People are looking for approval. This is why people are conformist. So, and if you do what everyone does, then you will end up with the same result of everyone. So being poor, unhealthy, and unhappy. Unhappy, I don't know, but you see what I mean.
I'm not saying people should be wildly non-conformist, but don't be afraid to be a majority of one.
Can you break down the ship owning business model, like how you make money? Let's specifically do this Canadian one you were talking about. Like, how much did the deal cost? Like, how do you make money on it? How do you even, do you look online or the yellow pages? You're like, oh, let me just...
I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah. So, like, but specifically this Canadian one, you said it was the best deal of all time for you guys. Like, what do the numbers look like? And walk us through that.
Well, it covered the most ground the fastest. I mean, it was one transaction. It was 19 ships. And I've forgotten some of the numbers. This was in 1988. It was around $165 or $170 million in a soft market. That was the price of the fleet. I mean, you can pay that for a single ship, of some types. So the numbers can get big. The best analogy, and this will help any viewer, is to real estate. This is a hard asset business. We're renting space in a marketplace, and we're subject to the laws of supply and demand, and then some. Much greater volatility than real estate, but it's comparable, and it's capital intensive. You don't get a premium particularly for the value of your management. I mean, you're buying and selling assets, and everything comes back to a net asset perspective, not like price earnings and growth potential and all that.
Yes, what he's saying is basically, if you look at the stocks that the big ship owners, the company that owns like 200 ships and so on that are quoted, the value of the stock is correlated to the value of the asset, to the value of the vessel, and not like if this is a good company or not.
So you make your money with cash flow that you generate from the ships, and then if your timing was good, you may get asset appreciation. That is not absolutely necessary to have a successful investment. It's icing on the cake if you get it. But you could build a ship and have long-term employment and get it paid down substantially. The trick here is to reduce the risk as fast as possible and then hang on for either normal markets, which are quite rewarding, or super hot markets, which are spectacularly rewarding. I mean, the cash is coming out of these ships like water out of a hydrant.
And last thing.
Yeah, so this is true. So I've met a bunch of ship owners, and basically they told me there's like 2 times in their life where they made so much money, and the rest is like a daily grind. So,
What is one story from running your own shipping company? Like, what's a story that comes to mind that makes you smile or that you're really proud of?
You know who D.K. Ludwig was? Daniel K. Ludwig.
So Daniel K. Ludwig, I think it was one of the wealthiest guy, one of the biggest ship owner, I think. But he had also a lot of commodity business. Look at that. I wanted to buy his book because Daniel Ludwig was someone extremely secretive. And there's a book about him, but let me show you. So look at the price of this book. Daniel Ludwig, The Invisible Billionaires. $300 for a book. So $300 for a book. If you want actually a very, very good podcast about this book, I will put a link below this video. There is a podcast from Founders. That's basically the guy speak about what he find interesting in this book, The Invisible Billionaire, and it's a very, very interesting story. And you see on the right, this is a book that I'm going to buy. Just 30 seconds about it. This one is about a guy that started from nothing and created the biggest banana and fruit company in the world. Completely insane dude, a Russian guy that arrived in the US with nothing. Completely insane, that guy. I mean, this is incredible. And this one, Onassis is used to be one of the biggest Greek ship owner. Also a very colorful guy. Anyway, go back to the video.
At the end of World War I, he was probably the biggest ship owner, non-public in the world. Had over 100 ships. Guy had about an 8th grade education. He had built in Japan 2 structures. One was a power plant and one was a pulp mill. And he had them floated over across the Pacific, up the Amazon, and set on pilings on the River Jari. And he was growing eucalyptus trees, a fast-growing tropical tree, to turn them into pulp. And then some Brazilian political people started trying to move in on him, and they wanted to get paid for this and that. And he said, and he shut it down. And this was in his later years, and he wrote off $500 million, which at that time was a monstrous amount of money. He died. His right-hand man was a guy I knew, when I was talking to them about some ships that they still owned and might want to sell. And we're in old man Ludwig's office, and this guy is telling me this story that one day old man Ludwig says to him, "So, the River Jari project, what do you think of that?" He's sort of got a conventional view of this. $500 million is a lot of money to lose. An unthinkable amount of money to lose. It's an unthinkable amount of money. Okay, so the guy kind of mumbles, says, yeah, he said, well, it was a success. And the guy mumbles a little more because he doesn't know what to say to his boss. He says, it was a success because we did it. Now, this is another part of the story which is true. I was walking across town at one point on 59th Street. And
yeah, just commenting about that. So basically what Daniel Ludwig said, that it was a success because we did it. They did something completely incredible, which is like shipping power plant and pulp miles or whatever across the Atlantic, and they made it. So it was a success because they did it. And if you are like at the beginning of your career or you want to try to close your first deal, think about that.
Across the street, I thought I saw D.K. Ludwig walking down the street. I was not in the shipping business at that time, but I was thinking about it. So he's walking down the street, and I hear him say to this guy, well, you got to be a bit of a dreamer in life. And I thought, oh my God. So you ask me. Now, my greatest satisfaction is not a single story, but the fact that I did it.